Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about modern advertising in current year, but this time it's going to be a little bit different than our previous videos. We spent video after video going over how terrible and woke and pro-social justice warrior much of the ads are becoming in America, even going so far as to turn off and turn away the product's actual customer bases, as a way to virtue signal to other leftists who also, funny enough, and ironically, won't be buying those woke products anyway. For example, our last woke advertising video was about when the Mattel toy company started making neutral looking dolls as a way for them to supposedly get more inclusive. But come to find out, and as we've seen before many times, when these radical leftists claim they want things to be more neutral, they really mean they want men and boys to be less masculine and more like females, which they prefer. This becomes painstakingly apparent when the large majority of their so-called neutral toys and the children using them, they just end up looking like boys who are trying to be more like girls. In addition, we've gone over numerous other examples like this too, of American advertising going way off into the left-wing craziness. And to briefly go over it before we move on here, basically, the left-wing wokerati want everything to pander to females more, even if it's male-based products like, for example, Gillette's razor blades, used of course to shave the beards of male faces, and they tried to advertise to women, funny enough. And in addition, LGBTQ alphabet people get overtly overrepresented in Western advertising now too, as do many minorities. And that's not to say this is necessarily bad or I want all of that to stop either. It's just something that's become very noticeable and somewhat annoying, and more off-putting and upsetting the more you force this so-called diversity down our throats. That finally brings us to today's topic now. As the title of this video suggests, many other countries are noticeably not woke with their advertising, and having experienced this in one certain Asian nation recently, I thought I would share with you some pictures of their ads that I took there and my thoughts on them, and then we can speculate and reason as to why it's so different in other places like this. As many of you probably know already, I've recently traveled to Thailand to visit my wife's family and friends. We had a big wedding party there and met all kinds of cool people. I charmed the in-laws, and it's been a lot of fun going out there. And in addition, there was one thing I noticed at the beginning of my trip that really sparked my interest, and it's what's inspired the whole premise for this new video. The first week of our trip, we stayed in Bangkok, Thailand's biggest primate city and one of the world's largest as well. And upon entering it, I started noticing something different right away. In addition to obviously different things like it being way more crowded and filled with different kinds of people there, different than what I'm accustomed to in America, well, besides that, something else that really stuck out to me right away was the various different and prolific advertising. Naturally, there's advertising to be seen back home too, but it's become rather regulated and restricted in America in recent years, and it's also become more woke. But bigger, older, less restricted areas like Thailand have pretty much no-holds-barred approaches to their adverts. This means more, bigger, different advertisings everywhere. Advertising on everyone and everything they can get their hands on, including lots of billboards, signs on buildings, ads on the train, at the station, and on taxis and everything too. And while many would consider these ads to be big eyesores, and I'm sure they would get old if you're around them all the time too, but I have to admit myself, I really found them rather charming. It was also interesting to see how they make their ads and what gets ads there too, and how they promote things, and also, most importantly for today's discussion, the way in which they advertise is much different there as well. Before I even realized how not woke they were, I noticed other differences first. For example, the ads seem to have this classic, positive, happy-go-lucky style to them, almost like you're going back in time and seeing some legacy ads made on a show like, say, Mad Men or something. In Thailand, they tend to use these classic styles a lot. Lots of big, bright colors, strong fonts, the models specifically holding products and having these big, huge smiles on their faces too. It was rather refreshing to see this traditional advertising look again in the modern world, especially considering how overly serious, dramatic, and sometimes hypersexual ads have become in the United States and the West. Yes, Thai ads definitely seem to be more wholesome, more classic, and it reflects on their people and their more family-oriented, conservative values they have there too. Pretty perfect and fitting. This brings us to the next big thing I noticed about Bangkok's ads over time. It's not as obvious an observation as their classic advertising style, but once you notice this, you really can't unsee it either. First, look at a few pictures I took myself here and check out some different adverts I came across on my trip. Here, for example, is a Pepsi with lime ad, with a guy smiling and also holding a papaya salad, a traditional Thai dish there. Also, note his bowl-style haircut here, a cut that's very popular in Thailand and much of Asia, but it's now become supposedly offensive and racist in the West. racist. At least according to radical anti-white SJWs, that is. Let's keep moving on here though. The haircut isn't really the main point. Next, we got a Nescafe ad with two Thai guys smiling and drinking this local favorite instant brew coffee. You might be starting to notice the different kinds of products they have here now too. Nescafe, while available in the United States, is not nearly as popular as it is back in the East. Kind of like how that last Thai product, the Pepsi with lime, was more popular there too. They like limes. Moving forward again though, next we got our first female starring ad for the company Pond's, a skincare product producer. And below this pink Pond's ad, you can also see a smaller one for Netflix's Thai shows. This Netflix ad shows 3 different posters for its shows there, each of which has 2 actors on each poster. And as we zoom in here, I think you might start to see what I'm talking about and how this country's ads aren't that woke. Here we can see 7 different actors or models with a mostly even split of males to females. This seems pretty obvious, but what you gotta do here is think about what you're not seeing in these ads. There's really no minorities in these ads or the others at all. No forced diversity or LGBTQIA alphabet people shoved into them at any point either. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those groups of people either. It's just after seeing them get forced into everything in the US and forced into every movie, TV show, and advertisement in Western media, I have to admit here, it was a bit refreshing to visit a country who didn't care about all that woke bullcrap. Thailand seems to have no inclination to virtue signal and no need to pander to liberals and leftists either. They're just happy and content with being themselves and putting their own people in all of their ads. Almost all of them, maybe over 90%, contain just Thai people in them, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Lastly, before moving on from this picture, just imagine if this was a combination of ads you were looking at in the United States of America. Do you think in that case it would accurately reflect the people in its own country, like how the ads do in Thailand here? Because I don't think there's a chance that would happen. In current year, these ads and models and actors would all be minorities, and they wouldn't even let one white person into them. Wouldn't be surprised if there were 0 white people in these ads at all, if they were controlled by the liberal-dominated, anti-white, extremely biased SJWs who rule over American media with an iron fist. Next, let's look at a few more advertisements I took pictures of in Thailand too, because this story gets even better the more you move forward actually. These next 2 ads were used to promote products at a popular department store in Thailand called Robinson's. The first picture here features 4 different people. Half of them are Thai and the other half are, well, just look at this next picture and tell me what you think. This is a little white girl who's seemingly an American or British descendant, and combine her with the picture before and also others I've seen out there and wasn't able to photograph, but I think you're starting to get the point. You should be catching on now. Thailand, in addition to using large amounts of Thai models which reflect the majority of the people in its nation, well, in addition to that, they also tend to use a good amount of white models and actors in their advertisements too. And I find this particularly funny because in this day and age, you can't even find whites in advertisements in white countries anymore. And when you do, and when it happens to happen, the left will immediately go to complain about them, ridicule those ads, and even call us racist for daring to use our own nation's majority race to advertise to our own people. Pretty ironic to think that a foreign nation like Thailand is using more American models than the United States of America actually is itself, and they even embrace and encourage whites to come to their country too. They want us to enjoy ourselves there and be accepted for who we are as well. In fact, quick side story here, as I just alluded to, I was treated extremely well and accepted by almost everyone in Thailand during all of my trip. The airport workers were great, the locals were really nice, and my wife's Thai family welcomed me into their home and town with very accepting and open arms. Everyone was great on my trip, and I can only recall one time that I actually got into a small disagreement and possible argument with someone while I was there. And guess what? The only person I got into a fight with in Thailand was another American like myself. He was getting butthurt because I was in front of him at a line to get tickets for the train. Everyone's in a big hurry in Bangkok, so it wasn't a big surprise, but looking back, it was rather interesting that the only confrontation I had while in the land of smiles was with another white man from America who attacked me for not being from Bangkok specifically, ironically enough. In the end, back to the advertising things to wrap it up here, I think it's pretty clear Thailand is not woke, specifically in its public presentation and in the way it advertises its products all over in its cities. They care very little about pandering to and courting minority groups over there, and there's nothing wrong with not doing that either. It's not like they don't like certain people, not at all. Thailand is called the land of smiles for a reason. It's one of the most open and welcoming places to travel to in all of the world, and its people, well, they're literally filled with smiles and joy, and they're happy to meet others of all races and sexes and orientations orientations as well. But at the same time, they're also not trying to virtue signal and pander to woke SJW groups either, which was really refreshing to see, and it's a direction I wish we could see more in the United States and the Western world as a whole as well. Now, to be fair, I do realize America is a lot different here, and we're a much more diverse country over Thailand, which is over 95% Thai people. But America still is 60 to 70% white, depending on who you ask, so our European descendant nation should be featured more in ads, all things considered. But you wouldn't think we have this majority based on how overly diverse and forced all our ads and medias have truly become. Finally, before we go, I think it's worth mentioning the lack of shoehorning in LGBTQ alphabet people into public spaces and ads in Thailand too. Had these ads been as woke as the ones we are now getting in the West, we would have inevitably seen more lesbian haircuts in them, and gender-neutral girls, and even trans actors and models too. But they remained mostly absent from public spaces in Thailand. And it's not because these groups are taboo or anything either. As many of you probably know, Thailand is pretty notorious for having large amounts of ladyboys there, and other trans people as well, because like with all other groups, the Thai people are extremely accepting of everyone. But besides seeing one trans actress on a TV show and a few others on some shows my wife likes to watch, well, these groups still aren't as prevalent in the public, especially in advertising. And again, it's not because they're hated or disliked at all. Quite the opposite, actually. In reality, Thai people just don't see the need to force minorities into everything just to virtue signal about it. And they are perfectly content with acknowledging that most people don't identify with these small, single-digit percentage numbered groups of people. And quite frankly, it's nice to see them advertising with real, average, straight Thai people, albeit their models are of course above average in shape and have above average looks, of course. But that's the whole point of promotions and advertising, isn't it? Trying to sell to the masses by promoting with beautiful people, including good-looking Thai males and the very attractive and unapologetically sexy Thai women. What do you guys think? Do you see what I mean when I say and show you how Thailand's advertising is not woke? Many other Eastern countries have similar advertising too, which caters to their own people unapologetically. Have you guys seen any of this kind of advertising in your own travels? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.